Wake up! Wake up! As the boy comes to, he is aware of someone shaking him urgently by the shoulder. Get up, now! Reluctantly, he pushes the blanket down from over his head and opens his eyes. It is pitch black, dead of night. Yet the boy can distinctly hear hurrying feet and low, urgent voices elsewhere in the palace. The slave who has woken him, as black as the night himself, holds a lighted lamp close to his face so that the boy can see him. Your father says everyone must leave, now! The Amir says the Rashid is coming, with many men. The boy, young as he is, knows what this means. For all of his young life, the Rashids have been his family's greatest enemies. Now they have sworn vengeance on his whole family. He rises hurriedly, hastily pulls on extra clothes over the loose robe he's already wearing and prepares to leave. Meanwhile, the slave is gathering together all of the boy's most important possessions and his bedding and tying them into one large bundle. The boy is Abd al-Aziz Ibn Saud, eldest surviving son of Abd al-Rahman, Amir of Najd, a poor, isolated province deep in the desert-surrounded heart of what we know today as Saudi Arabia. It is January 1891. Abd al-Aziz is 10 years old. The date of Ibn Saud's birth is not known for certain. The majority of sources tell us that he was born in 1880, on November 26th according to some accounts, and other circumstantial evidence points to that being the most likely date. However, some sources claim that he was born earlier, probably in 1876. Many years later, according to Fouad Hamza, Ibn Saud made mention of an older brother, Faisal, who had died when he was about 9 years old. The room is cold. Outside it will be colder. Although for day after day in summer the temperature reaches more than 110 degrees Fahrenheit, or 44 degrees Celsius, so hot that you can fry an egg by breaking it onto a rock, in winter, there is often frost, and sometimes even snow. The boy is bright, his father's hope for his family's future. He has been able to recite the whole of the Holy Quran from memory since he was 7, and for the last 2 years, has been receiving private instruction from the revered Islamic scholar Abd Allah ibn Abd el-Latif, grandson of Muhammad ibn Abd el-Wahhab, the founder of Islam's most austere creed, Wahhabism. It is only 3 months since his father sent Abd al-Aziz with his uncle Muhammad and a delegation of Riyadh citizens to negotiate an end to the years of hostility between his family and the Rashids. On first seeing Muhammad ibn Rashid, the head of the Rashid family, Abd al-Aziz had thought that he looked like the embodiment of pure evil. With the sharp eyes of a child, Abd al-Aziz had seen that the Rashid's beard was flecked with gray hairs, but that he had used dye to make it appear still black. In the words of an English traveler, Charles Doughty, who had visited the Rashid in his capital Hayal a few years earlier, he was lean of flesh and hollow. His looks are like the looks of one survived out of much disease of the world. To an English couple, the Blunts, who had met Rashid a few years later, he had appeared the very archetype of a villain, calling to mind the portraits of Richard III, lean, sallow cheeks, much sunken, thin lips, with an expression of pain except when smiling, a thin black beard, well-defined black knitted eyebrows, and remarkable eyes deep sunk and piercing, like the eyes of a hawk, but ever turning restlessly from one of our faces to the other, and then to those beside him. It was the very type of a conscience-stricken face, or of one which fears an assassin. However, when the Rashid had spoken to young Abd al-Aziz, he had shown him a more gentle and fatherly side of himself. He had consoled him on the recent death of his elder brother Faisal, and said that perhaps God would cause him to grow into an able replacement. The previous spring, before Abd al-Aziz and his uncle's visit to him, the Rashid and his men had laid siege to Riyadh, the town where the Sauds lived, for more than 40 days. They had cut down almost 8,000 of the palm trees that grew in the date groves that surrounded the town, had damaged and poisoned many of the wells on which the townspeople depended. Yet still the Sauds and the 10,000 people of Riyadh had refused to surrender. As a result, as the heat of summer had come on and still Ibn Rashid's men had seen no prospect of the town surrendering, they had started to tire of the drudgery of the siege and had begun to desert. So Ibn Rashid had had no alternative but to call for negotiations,